The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the dense forest. Leaves rustled in the wind, whispering secrets only the trees seemed to understand. A lone hiker named Ravi moved slowly along the narrow trail. He carried a small backpack, a worn-out map, and a water bottle that had seen better days. His boots crunched against the dry leaves and his breath came in steady but tired rhythm. Ravi had been hiking for hours. He had left the city behind early in the morning, hoping to find peace among the trees and mountains. The noise, the chaos, and the endless responsibilities had weighed him down. He felt trapped in a world that moved too fast and demanded too much. Each step he took seemed heavier than the last, and he could feel the ache in his heart. "I'm sick of this world," he muttered aloud, his voice barely carrying over the rustle of the trees. His words felt hollow even to him, but he could not stop them from leaving his lips. There was a deep sadness in his voice, a longing for something he could not name. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction. Sunlight pierced through the canopy in thin golden beams, lighting up patches of moss and small flowers on the forest floor. Birds chirped in the distance, their songs bright but distant as if they belonged to another world. Ravi felt a strange mixture of peace and sorrow. Nature was beautiful, yet it made him feel smaller and lonelier at the same time. As he walked, he noticed a faint trail branching off from the main path. The trail looked old, almost forgotten. Trees leaned over it, their branches forming a natural arch. Curiosity stirred in Ravi's chest. Something about the path called to him. He hesitated for a moment, checking his map. The trail was not marked, but the air around it felt different. It was cooler, quieter, and somehow heavier. Ravi took a deep breath and decided to follow the smaller path. The forest seemed to grow denser as he walked, the sunlight fading behind the thick canopy. The sounds of birds and wind became softer, replaced by the occasional snap of a twig under his boots. He felt a strange shiver run down his spine, though he could not tell if it was from the cold or something else. After walking for what felt like an hour, Ravi noticed a structure hidden among the trees. The roof was covered with moss and the wooden walls were weathered and cracked. It was a small cabin, abandoned and almost blending into the forest around it. Windows were broken and the door hung slightly off its hinges. Yet, despite its decay, the cabin held a certain mystery. Ravi stopped a few steps away, staring at it. Something about the cabin felt familiar, though he knew he had never seen it before. The air around it was thick, carrying the scent of old wood, damp leaves, and something he could not identify. It was both inviting and intimidating. He approached slowly, each step careful. The forest seemed to hold its breath around him. When he reached the door, he pushed it gently. It creaked loudly, echoing through the empty trees. Inside, dust hung in the air, sparkling in the few rays of light that entered through the broken windows. Broken furniture lay scattered and cobwebs hung in every corner. Ravi stepped inside and felt the floorboards creak under his weight. The cabin was small, with a single room and a fireplace that had long been cold. The walls were bare, but he noticed faint marks on the wood as if someone had tried to write or draw something long ago. He could not make out the shapes, but the marks gave the room a strange energy. He moved toward the window and looked outside. The forest stretched endlessly as if it had no edges. The light was fading fast and the shadows were growing longer. A chill ran through Ravi's body. He realized he had not noticed how much time had passed. The sun was almost gone, leaving the sky painted in shades of orange and purple. Ravi turned away from the window and noticed a small table in the corner. On it lay a dusty book. The cover was worn and the pages yellowed with age. He reached out and picked it up. As he opened it, a cloud of dust rose, making him cough. The book contained strange writings and sketches. Some looked like maps, others like symbols he did not understand. Yet, as he flipped through the pages, a sense of curiosity and wonder grew in him. He sat on the old chair near the fireplace and continued reading. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The forest outside darkened and Ravi barely noticed. The cabin felt like a world apart, removed from everything he had left behind. The sadness he had carried into the forest began to feel lighter, replaced by fascination and a strange hope. Then, a sound made him freeze. Footsteps? No, it was too soft. Almost like the cabin itself was shifting, moving in a way that did not make sense. Ravi looked around, but the room appeared empty. The wind outside rattled the broken windows, creating shadows that danced across the walls. He shook his head, trying to calm his mind. He had been tired, hungry, and alone. Perhaps he was imagining things. Ravi set the book down and stood up. He wanted to leave, to return to the safety of the main trail. Yet a part of him hesitated. Something about the cabin held him, as if it had been waiting for him. The walls seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, and he could almost hear whispers, soft and unintelligible, brushing against his ears. He took a step toward the door, then paused. What if the cabin was more than just an abandoned place? What if it held something he could not yet understand? The thought both frightened and intrigued him. His heart raced, but he could not turn back. Ravi walked deeper into the cabin, toward a small staircase at the back that led to a loft. The steps groaned under his weight. In the loft, he found an old trunk covered in dust. He knelt and opened it. Inside were strange objects: a lantern, old photographs, a few small trinkets, and a folded piece of cloth. He picked up the photographs. They showed people he did not recognize, but their faces were filled with emotions that felt real and timeless. As he examined the trunk, Ravi felt a sudden chill. The cabin seemed darker now, even though the last light of day still filtered through the broken windows. He glanced around nervously. The shadows seemed longer and the air felt heavier. His curiosity battled with fear, and his hands trembled slightly. Then a voice whispered softly, though he could not tell from where it came. Ravi, he froze. The name echoed in the room, though he had never spoken it aloud. His heart pounded. He looked around, but the loft was empty. The cabin was silent again, except for the sound of the wind outside. He felt a strange pull, as if something was urging him to stay. Ravi took a deep breath. He did not know what was happening, but he felt that the cabin had chosen him for a reason. The sadness he carried seemed smaller now, replaced by a sense of purpose. He could not explain it, but he knew he had to stay, at least for a while. He sat down again, holding the photographs and looking at the old book. The cabin, abandoned and forgotten by the world, felt alive to him. It was a place where the past whispered, where secrets waited to be discovered, and somehow Ravi felt that if he stayed he would find answers not only about the cabin, but also about himself. Outside, the forest grew dark. The sounds of the night began, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft scurry of small creatures through the underbrush. Inside, the cabin held its breath, watching the hiker who had entered its quiet domain. Ravi leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. For the first time in a long while, he felt a strange calm. The world outside, with its noise and demands, seemed far away. In the stillness of the abandoned cabin, he felt the beginning of something he could not yet name. And so, the night fell around the cabin. The forest waited. The wind whispered secrets among the trees. And Ravi, the hiker who had said he was sick of the world, sat quietly in a place forgotten by time, wondering what mysteries he would uncover by morning. Morning came slowly in the forest. The first light filtered through the broken windows of the cabin, casting soft rays across the dust-covered floor. Ravi stirred from his uneasy sleep. His body ached from the long hike, but his mind felt restless. The cabin seemed even quieter in the early light. Yet it was alive with tiny movements, the flutter of a bird's wings outside, the whisper of leaves in the wind, and the soft creak of the old wooden walls. Ravi stood and stretched, taking in the room. The photographs still lay in his hands. He studied them closely. The people in the pictures were ordinary in appearance, yet their expressions held a kind of story. Some looked happy, some sad, and others frightened. One photograph showed a young man standing in front of the cabin, his gaze fixed on the camera. Ravi frowned. The man had dark hair, kind eyes, and a smile that was both confident and gentle. He felt a strange pull, as if he recognized the face even though he had never seen it before. Curiosity overcame his fatigue. He set the photographs aside and returned to the old book he had found yesterday. He opened it to the page he had stopped at and scanned the strange symbols and drawings. Some of the sketches looked like maps, marking hidden paths and secret spaces in the forest. Others were diagrams of objects he did not understand. There were notes in the margins written in a careful hand, as if someone had tried to leave messages for a visitor who might come one day. Ravi traced the lines on one of the maps with his finger. The map seemed to point toward a small clearing not far from the cabin. A feeling of curiosity and caution mixed in his chest. He did not know if he should follow it, but the thought of staying inside all day felt impossible. Something about the cabin urged him to move, to explore. He packed his small backpack with the book, photographs, water bottle, and a few other small items he found in the trunk. The forest outside was bright and alive now, with sunlight dancing through the branches. Ravi stepped out of the cabin carefully, his boots crunching on the leaves. He took a deep breath of the fresh air. The world outside was quiet, yet it felt different than before. The forest seemed older, wiser, and full of secrets. Following the map in the book, Ravi made his way along a narrow trail. The path was rough, overgrown in parts, and often difficult to follow. Birds flitted through the trees, watching him curiously. The further he walked, the more he felt the weight of the cabin behind him. It was as if the place had whispered instructions to him, guiding him through the forest. He could not explain why, but he trusted the feeling. After a long walk, Ravi reached a small clearing. The grass here was taller. Wildflowers swayed in the gentle breeze, and the sunlight created patterns on the ground. In the center of the clearing stood an old stone pedestal. It was covered in moss and vines, and its surface was cracked with age. Ravi approached it slowly, examining every detail. There were strange symbols etched into the stone, similar to those in the book. He ran his fingers over them carefully, feeling the grooves in the surface. As he studied the pedestal, Ravi noticed something strange. The ground around it was slightly disturbed, as if someone had recently moved something there. He looked closer and discovered a small metal box buried in the dirt. Carefully, he dug it out. The box was old, rusty, and locked with a simple latch. He tried to open it, but it would not budge. Ravi sat on a nearby rock, studying the box. His mind raced with questions. Who had left it here? What was inside? The symbols on the pedestal and the box seemed to hint at something important. His heart beat faster with excitement and fear. He knew he was on the edge of discovering something significant. After a moment of hesitation, Ravi remembered the book. Perhaps it held the key to opening the box. He flipped through the pages quickly, scanning the symbols and notes. Then he noticed a small diagram that matched the latch on the box perfectly. It showed a simple combination, not numbers but movements. Left, right, push, pull. Ravi's hands trembled slightly as he followed the instructions. He moved the latch according to the diagram. The box clicked open. Inside was a folded piece of parchment and a small wooden amulet. Ravi unfolded the parchment carefully. It was a letter written in neat handwriting. The words were simple but carried a deep meaning. Whoever finds this box has been chosen. This place holds answers for those who seek them. Trust the cabin and trust yourself. Do not fear what you cannot yet see. Everything you need will reveal itself in time. Ravi held the letter in his hands, feeling a shiver of anticipation. The words seemed meant for him. The sadness he had carried into the forest yesterday now felt lighter, replaced with a growing sense of purpose. The cabin, the book, the photographs, and now this letter. It all felt connected, as if he had been guided here for a reason. He picked up the wooden amulet. It was small, smooth, and warm to the touch. There was a symbol carved on it that matched some of the designs in the book. Ravi felt a strange energy from it, like a quiet heartbeat. He put it around his neck, feeling comforted by its presence. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the edge of the clearing. Ravi froze, listening. A small deer stepped out from the trees, its eyes wide and curious. It looked at him for a long moment, then turned and disappeared into the forest. Ravi exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and wonder washing over him. The forest seemed alive with small mysteries, and he felt more connected to it than ever. He studied the clearing again. The pedestal, the box, and the symbols seemed to form a pattern. Ravi realized that this was not just a random place. The cabin, the forest, and now the clearing were all parts of a hidden story waiting to be discovered. He felt a thrill of excitement. For the first time in a long time, he felt alive. Ravi decided to return to the cabin to study the book and letter more closely. The walk back was quiet and peaceful. Sunlight streamed through the trees, highlighting the beauty of the forest. Birds sang their songs, and the wind carried a gentle scent of flowers and earth. Ravi felt a sense of hope and determination growing inside him. When he returned to the cabin, he placed the box, letter, and amulet on the old table. He opened the book again and tried to match the symbols with the map he had followed. Slowly, patterns emerged. The cabin, the clearing, and the hidden paths in the forest were all connected. The symbols seemed to point to other places, other discoveries waiting for someone brave enough to explore. Ravi sat back in the chair, holding the amulet. He thought about the journey ahead. The forest was full of secrets, and he had just uncovered the first of many. The sadness that had weighed him down yesterday now seemed distant. He felt a quiet courage, a determination to continue, to explore and to find answers. As the day turned to evening, Ravi noticed the light in the cabin change. The shadows seemed to shift in unusual ways. The walls and ceiling seemed to breathe softly, as if the cabin itself was alive. He could feel a gentle warmth from the fireplace, though no fire burned. The room felt safe, yet charged with a quiet energy. Ravi looked out of the window. The forest stretched endlessly, filled with secrets and hidden paths. He felt a deep connection to it, as if the trees, the wind, and the cabin were guiding him. A sense of anticipation settled over him. He did not know what awaited him next, but he knew he was ready. That night, Ravi slept again in the cabin. His dreams were filled with strange visions, paths that twisted through the forest, symbols glowing faintly, and whispers calling his name. He felt a sense of purpose even in his sleep. The cabin had welcomed him, and he knew that his journey had only just begun. Outside, the forest held its secrets quietly. The wind carried the stories of the trees, and the shadows waited patiently. And inside the cabin, the hiker who had once said he was sick of the world prepared for the next step of a journey that would change everything he thought he knew. Morning in the forest arrived quietly. The sun filtered softly through the trees, painting the ground in warm shades of gold and green. Ravi woke in the cabin feeling more determined than ever. The discoveries from yesterday, the book, the photographs, the amulet, and the mysterious letter, had opened something inside him. He felt a pull toward the forest, toward the hidden paths and secrets that the cabin seemed to guard. After a quick breakfast of bread and water he had packed, Ravi placed the amulet carefully around his neck. Its smooth surface seemed to hum faintly against his skin, a quiet encouragement. He grabbed the book and the letter, tucking them into his backpack, and stepped outside. The forest was alive with the morning's energy. Birds sang as they flitted from branch to branch. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the fresh scent of pine and earth. Ravi retraced his steps toward the clearing he had discovered the day before. As he walked, he noticed small details he had missed earlier. Unusual patterns of moss on the trees, faint trails of small animals, and marks on rocks that seemed deliberate. He paused to examine a line of stones arranged in a circle. They were old, worn by time, but the placement felt purposeful. Someone had left them with care, and Ravi sensed a hidden meaning. When he reached the clearing, the pedestal stood silently in the center. The small metal box and letter were gone from it now, leaving the stone surface exposed. Ravi approached carefully, examining the carved symbols again. They seemed even clearer in the morning light. He traced them with his fingers, feeling a subtle vibration beneath the stone. It was almost as if the pedestal itself carried a message. Ravi thought about the letter. "Trust the cabin and trust yourself," it had said. He realized that the cabin and the forest were guiding him. Each discovery, each path was a step toward something larger. His mind raced with questions, but a quiet confidence began to grow. He was ready to follow where the forest would lead. Following the map from the book, Ravi moved through the trees. The path was overgrown in parts, making his progress slow. He occasionally stopped to consult the book, comparing its diagrams to the land around him. The forest seemed to respond to his attention. Light shifted as he walked, revealing hidden passages and narrow trails he would have missed otherwise. It was as if the forest itself wanted him to find something. After some time, Ravi reached a small stream. The water was clear and cold, flowing over smooth stones. He knelt to drink, feeling refreshed. The stream curved gently through the forest, and Ravi noticed a cluster of stones nearby, forming another pattern similar to the ones in the clearing. He knelt down and examined them closely. One stone was slightly loose. With care, he lifted it and discovered a shallow hole beneath it. Inside lay a small leather pouch. Ravi opened the pouch and found a few old coins and another folded piece of parchment. The parchment contained more writing, this time describing a hidden chamber beneath the cabin. The words were simple but precise, giving directions and measurements. Ravi's heart quickened. He realized that the cabin held deeper secrets than he had imagined. There was more to discover, and he felt ready to uncover it. He followed the stream back toward the cabin, his steps quick with excitement. As he approached the structure, he noticed the broken windows reflected the sunlight differently than before. The cabin seemed to glow faintly as if welcoming him. Ravi stepped inside, placing the pouch and parchment on the table with the other discoveries. The quiet energy of the cabin surrounded him, comforting and urging him forward. Ravi studied the floor carefully, remembering the letter's instructions and the parchment about the hidden chamber. He traced the edges of the floorboards, tapping lightly and listening for hollow spots. After several minutes, he found a section that sounded different, a subtle hollow beneath the wood. He knelt down and carefully pried at it. The board shifted under his hands, revealing a small staircase leading downward into darkness. A mixture of fear and excitement rushed through him. The darkness below was unknown, but he felt a strange sense of purpose. He took a deep breath and descended the stairs slowly. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of earth and old stone. The steps ended at a small chamber. It was simple but clearly built with intention. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books, jars, and strange objects. Symbols similar to those in the book and on the pedestal were carved into the stone walls. Ravi stepped carefully into the chamber. Each item on the shelves seemed to tell a story. Some were tools, some were trinkets, and others were pieces of writing. He examined a small jar filled with dried herbs, then a faded journal with a leather cover. The journal's pages contained notes, sketches, and observations about the forest, the cabin, and the hidden paths. It was a record of someone who had spent a lifetime studying this place. As Ravi explored, he noticed a faint light emanating from a corner of the chamber. He moved closer and found a small crystal embedded in the wall. The crystal glowed softly, illuminating the space with a warm, gentle light. He touched it and felt a faint vibration as if it were alive. The light seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, guiding him to a small table nearby. On the table lay a map, larger than the one in the book, showing the cabin, the forest, and several hidden locations. Symbols marked each place, some matching the ones he had seen before. Ravi realized that the map was a guide, meant to lead him through the forest to uncover its mysteries. He traced the lines with his finger, feeling a growing sense of excitement and anticipation. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed in the chamber. It was a whisper, gentle and unintelligible, but it carried a clear intention. Ravi froze, listening. The sound seemed to come from the walls themselves, the air vibrating with the quiet voice. He closed his eyes for a moment, focusing. Then the whisper became clearer. Follow the path. Trust yourself. Ravi opened his eyes, his resolve stronger than ever. He knew the forest and the cabin were guiding him, but the journey required courage. He packed the map carefully, along with the journal, the amulet, and the book. The hidden chamber had given him answers, but also more questions. There were other places in the forest to explore, other secrets waiting to be discovered. He ascended the stairs back into the cabin. The sunlight had shifted again, illuminating the room in golden light. The cabin felt alive, as if it were breathing with him. He stepped outside, feeling the warmth of the day and the energy of the forest. Birds sang, leaves rustled, and the wind carried a sense of possibility. Ravi felt a connection to the world around him that he had never felt before. As he moved through the forest once more, following the map's directions, Ravi noticed unusual signs along the trail. Stones stacked in patterns, marks on trees, and faint symbols carved into bark. Each one confirmed he was on the right path. The forest seemed to guide him, opening passages that were hidden to casual travelers. Ravi paused at the edge of a dense thicket. The map indicated a small hidden grove beyond it. With determination, he pushed through the branches carefully. Sunlight broke through above, revealing a small clearing with a pond. The water was still and clear, reflecting the trees and sky perfectly. He approached and knelt at the edge, gazing at his reflection. For the first time, he felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for so long. The pond seemed magical. He noticed small ripples forming patterns on the surface, almost as if the water were communicating. The air carried a gentle fragrance of flowers and earth. Ravi realized that the forest was not just a place of mystery, but a living guide. Every path, every symbol, and every object he had found so far was part of a larger story waiting to unfold. Ravi stayed by the pond for a while, feeling the calm energy wash over him. He knew the journey was far from over. There were more secrets to uncover, more paths to explore, and the cabin had more to teach him. The forest was vast and full of wonders, and he was ready to follow its guidance wherever it led. As the sun began to set, Painting the forest in shades of orange and purple, Ravi returned to the cabin. He placed the map, journal, and other discoveries on the table. The cabin seemed to welcome him back, its quiet energy surrounding him like a protective embrace. He felt ready for the next stage of his journey, knowing that the forest, the cabin, and the hidden paths would continue to guide him. Night fell, and the forest grew quiet. The shadows stretched long and deep, and the wind whispered softly through the trees. Inside the cabin, Ravi sat by the window holding the amulet and looking out at the forest. He felt a sense of purpose and courage he had never known before. The world outside no longer seemed heavy or frightening. The mysteries of the forest had opened a new path for him, a path filled with discovery, wonder, and the promise of answers he had long sought. The next morning, Ravi woke to a forest filled with golden light. The sun filtered through the trees, casting dancing patterns on the cabin walls. He felt a restless energy inside him. After the discoveries of the hidden chamber and the magical pond, he knew there was more to uncover. Something about the forest seemed alive, calling him to continue his journey. He packed his belongings carefully: the book, the journal, the maps, and the amulet. The amulet hung warm against his chest, giving him a quiet reassurance. Ravi stepped outside. The forest was still and alive at the same time. Birds moved from branch to branch, and the wind carried the scent of fresh earth and leaves. He took a deep breath, feeling the forest's quiet power filling him with courage. Ravi followed the larger map from the hidden chamber. The symbols led him deeper into the forest, to areas he had not explored before. The trail grew narrow and difficult, winding through thick underbrush and twisted roots. Yet he moved steadily, feeling guided by an unseen presence. Every step seemed to bring him closer to something extraordinary. After some time, Ravi came to a hill covered in moss and wildflowers. The map indicated that the hill concealed a hidden entrance. He searched carefully, running his hands over the rocks and soil. Then he noticed a faint outline of a stone door, almost invisible beneath the vines and moss. His heart raced with anticipation. This was another secret hidden for years, now revealed to him. Ravi pushed the vines aside and examined the door. It was solid but small, built into the hillside. Strange symbols were carved into the stone, matching the designs he had seen in the cabin and on the pedestal. He placed his hand over the symbols, feeling a subtle warmth beneath his palm. With a firm push, the door creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel leading into the hill. He took a deep breath, lit his lantern, and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled of earth and stone. The tunnel twisted downward, narrow but navigable. Shadows flickered along the walls as he moved, and Ravi felt a mixture of excitement and caution. He had discovered hidden places before, but this tunnel felt different. It carried a quiet energy, as if it had been waiting for him. After walking for several minutes, Ravi reached a small chamber at the end of the tunnel. The walls were smooth and polished, unlike the rough stone outside. Symbols glowed faintly along the edges of the room, illuminating the space with a gentle light. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal with a small box resting on top. Ravi approached carefully. The box was simple, wooden, and covered in carvings similar to those on the amulet. He picked it up and felt a faint vibration. The box seemed alive in his hands. He opened it slowly, revealing a small crystal that shimmered with a soft inner light. Alongside the crystal was a folded parchment with a single message written neatly: "Only those with courage and an open heart may see the truth. Place the crystal where the light meets the shadows and the path will reveal itself." Ravi looked around the chamber. He noticed that the symbols on the walls seemed to interact with the light from his lantern. When he moved closer to one corner, he saw that a small beam of sunlight from a hidden opening above touched a spot on the floor where shadows gathered. The crystal in his hands pulsed softly, almost guiding him to the place the parchment described. He knelt and placed the crystal carefully in the spot where the light met the shadows. The moment it touched the floor, the symbols along the walls glowed brighter. A soft hum filled the chamber, and the stone floor began to shift, revealing a narrow staircase leading deeper underground. Ravi's pulse quickened. He had uncovered another hidden path, one that seemed older and more mysterious than anything he had seen before. Ravi descended the staircase slowly. The walls were lined with carvings depicting scenes of forests, cabins, and people discovering hidden places. The images seemed to tell a story, showing the journey of those who had come before him. The energy in the air grew stronger as he moved, and he could feel a quiet excitement building inside him. At the bottom of the staircase, Ravi entered a large underground hall. It was circular, with a high ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. In the center stood a pool of clear water, reflecting the glow of the crystal he had placed above. Around the edges of the hall were shelves filled with books, jars, and ancient objects. Everything seemed carefully preserved, as if someone had been waiting for a visitor to arrive. Ravi approached the pool. He looked into the water and saw his own reflection, but it shimmered strangely. The water rippled and showed images of the cabin, the forest, and the hidden paths he had discovered. It was as if the pool held memories, showing him the journey so far and hinting at what lay ahead. Ravi felt a deep sense of wonder and understanding. The cabin, the forest, and the hidden chambers were all connected, guiding him toward knowledge he had never imagined. As he studied the pool, Ravi noticed a soft sound behind him. He turned and saw a small door at the edge of the hall, partially hidden by shadows. Light seemed to glow from within, inviting him to enter. With careful steps, he approached the door and opened it. Inside was a room filled with more objects, tools, papers, and small carved figures. Everything was old but seemed preserved with great care. Ravi explored the room slowly, touching the objects gently. Each one seemed to tell a story, as if it were a message from the past. He found a small journal on a table. Its pages were filled with notes about the forest, the cabin, and the hidden chambers. The writer had observed everything carefully, recording the patterns, symbols, and secrets of the land. Ravi realized that he was following in someone else's footsteps, continuing a journey that had begun long before he arrived. He spent hours examining the journal and objects, piecing together the story. The forest was full of hidden paths and chambers, each connected in a way that only a careful observer could understand. The cabin had been a guide, leading him to the discoveries he had made. And now, the underground hall and the new room had revealed even more, showing him that the forest was alive with history and mystery. As evening approached, Ravi returned to the cabin. The light outside had softened and the forest seemed calm. He placed the crystal in a safe spot and tucked the journal into his backpack. The cabin welcomed him quietly, its walls seeming to pulse with a gentle energy. He felt a growing connection to the place, as if he were becoming part of its story. Ravi sat by the window, holding the amulet and looking at the forest. He thought about the hidden paths, the chambers, and the pool. Everything was connected, and he understood that his journey was far from over. The forest still held secrets, and the cabin still had lessons to teach him. As night fell, the forest grew quiet. Shadows stretched long, and the wind carried a soft murmur through the trees. Ravi felt a sense of calm and purpose. The sadness he had carried into the forest was gone. In its place was courage, curiosity, and a deep desire to uncover the mysteries around him. Ravi knew that the next day would bring new discoveries. The hidden paths, the symbols, and the energy of the forest were calling him forward. He closed his eyes and rested, ready for whatever awaited him. The forest, the cabin, and the hidden chambers had become a part of his life, guiding him on a journey of knowledge, wonder, and understanding. The night passed quietly, with the stars shining above the forest canopy. Inside the cabin, the hiker who had once felt sick of the world slept peacefully, dreaming of the paths he would explore and the secrets he would uncover. The forest waited patiently, holding its mysteries and guiding him toward a future filled with discovery. The forest was quiet in the early morning. Sunlight filtered through the tall trees, illuminating the cabin and the ground around it. Ravi awoke feeling a strange excitement. He had explored so much: the hidden chamber beneath the cabin, the magical pond, the underground hall. And yet he knew the most important discovery still awaited him. Today he would uncover the secret the forest had been guiding him toward. He packed his backpack carefully, taking the book, the journal, the maps, the letter, and the amulet. The amulet felt warm against his chest, as if it were encouraging him. Ravi stepped outside. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of pine and earth. Birds moved quickly from branch to branch, their calls bright and clear. The forest felt alive and patient, as if it had been waiting for him all this time. Ravi followed the larger map from the hidden chamber. The symbols led him deeper than ever before, along narrow paths that twisted through thick trees and overgrown underbrush. The forest seemed to guide him. He noticed signs he had missed earlier, Small stacks of stones, patterns of moss, and faint carvings on the bark of old trees. Each detail confirmed he was on the right path. After a long walk, he reached a cliffside that overlooked a wide valley. Sunlight spilled into the valley, illuminating a stream that sparkled like silver. The map indicated a hidden entrance nearby, partially covered by vines and roots. Ravi approached carefully, moving the foliage aside. Behind it was a small door built into the stone, almost invisible. Symbols carved into the door matched those on the amulet. He placed his hand over the carvings, feeling a soft warmth. The door seemed to respond to his touch, sliding open silently to reveal a tunnel leading downward. Ravi took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled of stone and earth. Shadows flickered along the walls as he walked, and a quiet energy seemed to move with him, guiding each step. The tunnel ended in a large chamber. Light from a small opening above created patterns on the floor, where shadows met the rays in a strange alignment. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal similar to the ones Ravi had seen before. On it lay a crystal glowing faintly. Around the walls were carvings depicting the forest, the cabin, and people discovering its hidden secrets. Ravi approached the pedestal carefully, holding the amulet in his hand. He placed it next to the crystal. The moment the amulet touched the pedestal, the light in the chamber shifted. The shadows and rays of sunlight combined, forming a glowing path across the floor. Symbols on the walls lit up, pulsing gently with warmth. Ravi felt a strange sensation of connection, as if the forest, the cabin, and the chamber were speaking to him all at once. He followed the glowing path to a section of the wall that seemed different from the rest. It was smoother, as if it had been polished intentionally. The symbols on this section matched the ones carved on the amulet. Ravi pressed his hand against the stone. The wall shifted silently, revealing a hidden passage. Beyond it, a soft golden light glowed, filling him with a sense of anticipation. Ravi stepped inside. The passage opened into a wide cavern, filled with objects he could barely comprehend. Shelves lined the walls, holding books, tools, and small carved figures. In the center of the cavern was a pool of clear water, reflecting the golden light from above. The air was warm and quiet, carrying a faint hum of energy. Ravi felt that he had entered the heart of the forest's secrets. He approached the pool and looked into the water. At first, he saw only his reflection. Then the surface shimmered, showing images of the cabin, the forest, and the hidden paths he had traveled. He saw himself discovering the first pedestal, opening the metal box, following the map, and placing the crystal. Each image moved smoothly, as if telling a story. Ravi realized that the pool held the memory of the forest, capturing the journey of those who had come before him and guiding him toward the ultimate truth. As he watched, the water shimmered and formed an image of the cabin itself. The reflection showed the small room where he had first arrived, then the loft, the hidden chamber, and finally the underground hall. Every place was connected, forming a complete map of discovery. Ravi understood that the cabin and the forest were alive with purpose, guiding those who were willing to seek the truth with courage and patience. A voice echoed softly in the cavern, gentle and calm. Ravi, the forest has guided you well. You have seen the paths, uncovered the secrets, and followed the call. The truth you seek is not in a single object or place. It is in understanding, in learning, and in connecting with the world around you. Ravi listened carefully. The voice was neither frightening nor harsh. It carried wisdom and warmth. He realized that the journey itself was the reward. Every step, every discovery had taught him something about courage, patience, and the beauty of life. The sadness he had carried when he entered the forest was gone. In its place was clarity and peace. He reached into the pool and touched the water. The surface was cool, yet it carried a warmth that spread through his body. Images continued to form, showing paths he had not yet explored, places hidden deep in the forest and chambers waiting to be discovered. Ravi understood that this was only the beginning. The forest, the cabin, and the hidden places were infinite in their secrets, and he had become part of their story. Ravi sat by the pool for some time, feeling the energy of the forest around him. The golden light filled the cavern, highlighting the symbols and objects on the shelves. He realized that the journey had changed him. The forest had shown him patience, courage, and the importance of curiosity. The cabin had welcomed him, guiding him to the discoveries he had made. And now, the hidden cavern had revealed the ultimate lesson. Life was full of secrets and wonders, waiting for those willing to seek them with an open heart. He rose and explored the cavern further, touching the objects on the shelves. Each one seemed to carry a message, a memory, or a lesson. Small carved figures showed scenes of people walking through forests, discovering hidden paths and learning the ways of the world. Books and journals recorded observations, instructions, and reflections. Everything was preserved carefully, as if the forest wanted future explorers to learn from the past. Ravi realized he had a choice. He could leave the forest, return to the city, and carry the lessons he had learned. Or he could stay, continue exploring, and become part of the forest story. He felt a quiet happiness in the decision. The forest was no longer a place of sadness or isolation. It was a place of wonder, learning, and connection. He returned to the hidden passage and climbed the stairs back to the cabin. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light through the broken windows. The cabin seemed peaceful, alive in its quiet way. Ravi placed the amulet, the book, and the journal carefully on the table. The cabin had given him everything he needed, guiding him toward understanding and a sense of purpose. Ravi sat by the window and looked at the forest. The shadows grew long, but the light lingered in soft patches across the trees. He felt connected to everything around him: the cabin, the forest, the hidden chambers, and the paths he had traveled. He realized that the world was not something to be sick of. It was full of mystery, beauty, and lessons waiting for those willing to seek them. Night fell slowly and the forest became quiet. Stars appeared in the sky above, twinkling softly. The wind carried a gentle whisper through the trees, a sound that felt like encouragement. Ravi leaned back, holding the amulet and reflecting on his journey. He had discovered the secrets of the cabin and the forest, but more importantly, he had discovered himself. For the first time in a long while, Ravi felt completely at peace. The sadness and frustration that had brought him to the forest were gone. In their place was courage, curiosity, and a deep understanding of life's beauty. The forest and the cabin had become part of him, and he was now part of their story. He closed his eyes and smiled. The journey had been long and full of mystery, but it had led him to a truth he could never have imagined. Life, like the forest, was full of hidden paths, secrets, and wonders, and those who sought them with an open heart would find joy, understanding, and connection. As Ravi drifted into sleep that night, the cabin seemed to breathe with him. The forest whispered softly through the trees, and somewhere deep within the hidden chambers the crystal glowed faintly, a quiet reminder that the world was full of mystery, waiting for those brave enough to seek it. Ravi had come to the forest feeling sick of the world. He had entered the cabin alone, unsure of what awaited him. Now he slept in peace, part of a story greater than himself, with the forest and the cabin as guides to a life full of wonder, purpose, and endless discovery.